mental health activity known as VENT. Vent, a vertical of Richie Knows. Community-driven mental health solutions by gamers for gamers. Destigmatizing mental health. It's your brain. Delete the dread from your head. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Mental health affects us all. We are Vent. No judgment. No judgment. We got ya.
My name is Jonathan Bautista.
My name is Kitty. I go by Kitty Kaboom online.
I'm Stefan Lopezanski.
Oliver Boone.
Micah Greenleaf.
Ryder Davis.
My name is Kim.
Elijah.
Amanda.
Devonta. Derek.
Cheyenne.
Alan.
Andrew Forbes.
My name is Sherry Nan.
And I have struggled with mental health.
My earliest notions of paranoia came up in high school.
My anger, my frustration, it finally starts chipping away at you to one point where you do get kind of down. I suffer with anxiety currently, loneliness,
Isolation.
delusions,
Bullying.
Sadness. Fear.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
I've been struggling with depression my whole life.
Still didn't know how to handle it.
When you get under that, it's really hard to get out of it.
Depression is like a shadow, and some days there might be overcast, or you might not be able to see your shadow, and you think that your depression is gone, and then when the sun comes back out, your shadow's right there, and it always will be with you.
I feel like gaming is a good way to get yourself out of that.
Just talking to them and finding peers that had similar mentality and similar interests.
It's very warm and very welcoming.
That was a huge help.
I'm so happy I have a community.
You know, I think that's like the best form of therapy, just talking to
You talk it all out, and it really helps. It really does.
Introducing Vent, a safe, supportive space from Richie Knows. We connect gamers. Hey everybody, I want to welcome everyone to Vent and our very first episode of what we call Vent Support Chats. I'm Robert Clotworthy, and some of you may recognize me as the voice of Jim Raynor in the StarCraft video game series. And I've been thinking quite a bit about mental health lately. I mean, I am the host of this show, and since today's show is going to focus on depression and mood disorders, I've been thinking about that a lot specifically. But I want you to know where I'm coming from and where the Vent team is coming from. Now, me personally, I've met a lot of gamers over 20 years. I've spoken to them, and most importantly, I've listened to them. Now, I can't count the number of times that gamers have opened up to me and shared some of their most intimate and personal thoughts and feelings. Now, I owe a lot to the gaming community. Being the voice of Jim Raynor in StarCraft for 20 plus years has been an amazing experience. But along with all the success that the game has achieved over the years, one thing that became quite clear to me early on, and this is something that I learned after speaking to so many of you, was one of responsibility and the importance of giving back. I found that a lot of people were in pain, and it seemed that all they were asking was for someone to listen to them, acknowledge what they were going through, and feel that somebody out there cared. Well, I want you to know that we care. Everyone here at Vent and Richie Knows deeply cares. I've looked into their eyes, and I've seen the empathy, I've seen the compassion, and I have seen the love. Now, there are statistics out there that tell us that 25% of the gamers are depressed. That's versus 11% of the general population. We currently are running a spot on Vent, and we asked the question of gamers, and 82% of them responded when asked that they're unhappy. Well, I want to know why. And of all the questions or all the words in the English language, my favorite word is why. I want to know why. And we created Vent because it's needed. It's what we call community-driven mental health solutions. And I want to underline that. It's community-driven mental health solutions. Not problems, it's solutions. And the community, what is the community? The community is you. It's the gaming community. We're all partners in this. Now, we at Vent, we're not going to pretend that we know all the answers. We're not going to be able to solve everyone's problems. But Vent will offer you that safe and affirmative space where you can safely and without judgment discuss what's going on in the gaming community. Your fears, loneliness, isolation, depression, everything. But to do that, and for Vent to be successful, we need your help. Now, I know that this is what we call an alpha test. All of you are here on what is the first step of what we hope will be something that will help a lot of people, a lot of gamers, as well as the family and the friends that love you. So perhaps we should look at this instead of as an alpha test, but as an alpha experiment. All journeys begin with that first step, and I invite you to join us on this journey. But we need your input. What we like to say at Richie Knows and Vent is that it's okay not to be okay. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show, I'd like to introduce to you a member of the Vent team. She's also a big part of Richie Knows, and the hostess, narrator, however you want to call it, of a fabulous show that we have, and we'll get into that. But let me introduce to you Sophie Goodjohn. I tried to give it a French pronunciation. How'd I do? Terrible?
Nailed it. Perfect.
Nailed it. Okay.
I don't put that much French on it.
So. Okay. Goodjohn. Like Grey Poupon, right?
Exactly.
First, I'm doing great. Now, last time I spoke, you were in New Orleans. Now you're in New York. You're what? Just a globetrotter? A globehopper, I should say?
I'm in the great city of New York.
All right. Well, last night you did a show called Vent Overhertz. And I got to tell you, it absolutely blew me away. Tell me a little bit about what that experience was like for you.
So Overhertz, for anyone who didn't get to watch last night's show, which you still can, is up now on YouTube and our various platforms. We listened in on a conversation between two best friends and roommates, Leo and Way. And then we had Way on to talk. His name is Way Stark. He is owner of Stark Pride Empire, and honestly just has the biggest heart. We talked a lot about what it's like to have a friend who's struggling with their mental health, what it's like to have your own hurdles and challenges in life, and still try to be the one who is always there as a support system for other people. I think Way was an incredible example of how you can deal with the punches that life throws at you and still be that support system that other people look to you for. So it was really incredible. And then we had Aaron from NAMI come on and talk a little bit more. But I think it was a really great experience. It was our first Overheard. And I think we really knocked it out of the park with the two people we had on, because they spoke from the heart. They spoke from their own experiences, and it was really great.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. What really excited me about it was the discovery of how many people are out there that want to help, what resources are out there. And it's just a matter of learning about them. I mean, people just don't know. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to search. And that's part of what Vent's purpose is to give you guys the information that's necessary so that if you have an issue, if you have a question, if you know somebody that's going through a difficult time, there are resources that are out there that are available to you. Absolutely. And with that in mind, Sophie, you're going to be monitoring everything on social media. You are the queen of social media this evening.
So as you mentioned, we've got Vent is all about community-driven mental health solutions. So as much as we're here to talk and listen to the people we have on the show, we want everyone else to get involved. Share space to be able to voice your own questions, share your experiences. It could be a question directly to someone on the show, or it could be just something that you want to get off your chest, a chance for you to vent. So you can drop your questions on our Reddit, our Twitch, or our Discord. Honestly, you can tweet them at us and we could get to them next show. If you head over to our Reddit, Twitch, or Discord, we will be monitoring those questions live and discussing them on the show. And you'll see I will pop in and out of our discussion to drop more questions. And when I do pop out, you can check out the different places to go.
All right.
Get in touch.
Thanks, Sophie. I love the little astronaut on the moon there behind you.
He's very calm.
It puts you in your Zen space?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Sophie, whenever you feel or whenever a question pops in, feel free to just chime in and we'll go with it. Now we would like to introduce to you our special guest this evening. This woman is a manager at NAMI West Los Angeles, and NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And she is responsible for the peer support groups. And as part of the educational outreach programs at NAMI, she leads that peer support group that supports adults who are navigating through the barriers they come across in the mental health care system and society as a whole. She's also a speaker for the NAMI West Los Angeles Ending the Silence program. I want to find out what that's all about. It educates students about overcoming the stigma surrounding mental health conditions. Please welcome to the show a wonderful guest, a great lady, Elizabeth Stevens. Elizabeth, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what NAMI is and what your responsibilities are?
Yes, yeah. So like you said, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and there are chapters across the U.S. There's over 600 affiliates, so we represent the west side of LA. What's really neat about that means wherever you all are tuning in, there's a local NAMI that you could reach out to. What we do is we provide free educational services and free support groups for both family members who have loved ones with mental health conditions and peers who live with mental health conditions. And really the core of that is focusing on lived experience. So I love what you're doing here at Vent and creating that space, because that's what we try to do every day at our office. And I'm really lucky to be able to lead the peer programs and find spaces now online to make sure that people get the mental health resources they need in a system that can be really confusing and inaccessible.
Have you dealt with a lot of gamers? I assume you have.
Yes, we do have gamers who tune into our support groups, and we actually have a game night on Fridays. So Friday evenings on Zoom, we have gamers who tune in, play all different sorts of, it's mostly board games, because that's what we maybe need to meet with you to get some better technology in. But that's what we launched when the pandemic started, to create more of like a social space beyond our support groups.
Wonderful. Well, one of the things that we like to do at Vent is we actually go out into the community. We ask the gamers, what their opinions are about mental health, what their experiences are, what they've gone through, maybe even some advice that they would give to a fellow gamer. And we put together a little video, a little snippet of some of those conversations. So I'd like to share that with everyone who's watching and then ask you a few questions about it, if I may.
Great.
Is mental health?
That's a hard one.
That's such a deep question.
It's a bunch of different things together.
But I do know that I think mental health in general is just something that isn't talked about.
Mental health isn't really talked about a lot.
But sometimes I just feel like I'm not enough.
Start counting your losses or start counting your defeats,
I was just upset with myself, and I would tend to take it out on my family.
It was a lot of loneliness, depression.
Anxiety is a train moving really fast down a track, and you're not sure if it's going to hang on.
Yeah, just kind of off the rails.
There's so many different things that people could go through.
Everyone struggles with mental health, whether you have a diagnosis or most people don't.
Solutions. My mental health solutions are find something you love to do, stick with it.
Learning who you are, what you like.
You want to figure out what makes you happy.
You gotta focus on yourself. You really have to focus on yourself like 100% of the time.
Hey, I need this. I need some self-care.
Try hard to focus on the wins instead of the losses. You can live life as if everything is a miracle or as if nothing's a miracle.
Let's go outside. Let's get you some sun.
But you got to make sure you speak up.
Don't try to fight your battle on your own.
It kind of lifts the weight off your shoulders when someone's able to relate.
We're all speaking the same language, speaking the gaming language.
It feels good, you feel like you're right at home.
We're here for you, and Vent is here for you too.
Introducing Vent, a safe, supportive space from Richie Knows. We connect gamers. Well, Elizabeth, what do you think?
It's incredible. I tend to take for granted that I work at an organization that talks about mental health, but I remember never feeling like growing up I could talk about mental health. So to see so many people on that video open and discussing it, it's really amazing.
You know, when we had the doctor on the other night, I asked him what, I guess, the biggest issues that's facing gamers are right now. So I'd like to ask that same question of you. What, in your experience, what's going on out there? What's the I guess number 1, 2, 3, however you want to say. What are the issues that gamers are facing today?
Yeah, well, from my experience, and this is just from leading the peer support groups, finding that community and finding a group of people that you connect with and feel that shared passion with, and especially during this past year, to find a place where you don't feel isolated and don't feel alone. And so we try to create that space by having peer support, because we find that connecting on lived experience is usually what really makes people feel like they can get through a tough time, or they can get through a rocky part in their mental health. And also mental health resources. It can be really difficult once you're outside a school system, or once you're outside and living your adult life, to find mental health support, and mental health support that understands the issues that gamers are facing specifically. Finding people who get that, I think, is really difficult.
You know, you said isolated and alone. You know, we're all feeling that to a certain extent. You know, we're not seeing people in person like we used to. I can only imagine that it's magnified in the gaming community. I mean, a lot of people were playing games by themselves anyway, and now it's especially hard to get out there. What would be, you know, a good first step for somebody to take?
That's a really good question. I think that even finding one person that you can connect to can open up the door to a whole community. So for me, that meant taking the initial anxious step of joining a support group, or joining, I really love joining Catan Zooms and playing Catan with people that before the pandemic I didn't know at all. And I am not the most extroverted, but taking that one step got me connected with people that I've been playing with all year now. So it was scary, and now it just feels like, oh, I can't believe I didn't do this before. But I don't think I don't think I give myself credit for how scary that first step is.
Yeah, I mean, people I think need to realize that, you know, that first step can just be a tiny step. You know, just stepping a little bit outside of that comfort zone is all that's necessary. You don't have to, you know, run a marathon when it comes to that. You just need to kind of put on your running shoes. Maybe that's the first step that you take. And encouraging people to do that is, I think, incredibly helpful. And NAMI, I would imagine, is the type of an organization that really helps people to find that, you know, that inner resolve, that inner strength, or that courage, for lack of a better word, to kind of just try a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that just hearing people talk, even about their day-to-day struggles that they're going through, can really be like, oh, okay, I'm not the only person going through a hard time right now. It's not on me. It's not something that's quote unquote wrong with me. Because I think we sometimes really feel that, oh my gosh, I know when I go through periods of depression, I felt like, oh, I've done something wrong. Now that I have a peer community, I understand that I am not the only one going through this, and I can get help for it.
Yeah, the doctor the other night spoke about that a little bit, where, you know, I'm sure that we all think that whatever problems we have are completely unique, that we're the only ones that have ever been going. No one else will understand because no one else has gone through this. And he was explaining that if you look at human history, this is something that we've experienced as long as we've been here on the planet, which is comforting to a certain degree, I would think, because people have walked that path before and they've survived it. And maybe you find a little bit of confidence in that, or a little bit of satisfaction that, hey, if they can do it, then maybe I can as well. But it's the trying that's, I guess, maybe that's the first thing you need to do. And how do you get beyond that point of where you've given up to where you actually make that change in your mind to go, you know what, let me try?
I think that recognizing that you need help is a huge revelation. Like, I remember just thinking when I was depressed that, oh, this is just everyone's baseline. So getting some mental health education to understand what the symptoms of depression or other mood disorders look like, so that you can start to not diagnose yourself, but maybe recognize that it might be time to seek some help, whether that is a support group, or for me, it was finding a good therapist. So it was finding someone who I felt like, okay, I can trust this person, I can open up to them. And if I do open up to them, they won't judge me. And I know that, each day feels really, really hard when I'm depressed. But if I can get through just one day at a time, it feels a lot more manageable. And so that is kind of the same way, like that first step feels. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do this one thing, check it off, and tomorrow's a new day.
You brought up comparison. That's really interesting to me because, when you look at social media, you get this sanitized version of life that you think that everything is supposed to be perfect, and if you're not, dressing like a Kardashian and you're not having, phenomenal meals every day, that something's wrong. And plus, there's this time pressure that's put on. We don't have the ability to just take a few minutes to just kind of center ourselves. There's this immediacy. People are, texting right away and without thinking, and it's just going back and forth. And it seems to be that there's something missing in that connection with humans that I think we need to acknowledge and say, wait a minute, let's go back to where maybe things were, slow the pace down, I guess is what I'm trying to say, a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree. A couple of years ago, I remember trying to post those perfect pictures and looking like I had it all together. And I remember I took this picture of the beach, and 5 days later, I was hospitalized for my depression. So it was totally fake. It was completely not there. I since have opened up about, wait, okay, what I was actually going through in the moment was this. And now being able to share my lived experience is powerful. But at the time, I was just like, oh, this is what all my friends are doing. Like, I need to check off these social media boxes. And for me, being a little more conscious about the social media and consuming help, I unfollowed some people that just for me, made me feel kind of like I wasn't living up to a certain expectation.
Yeah, expectations. It's rough because we set ourselves up for failure. It seems. I mean, we have these unrealistic expectations as to how things are supposed to be. And, even the people that achieve it don't achieve it. I mean, I've talked to gamers, even the most successful gamers that are out there, the guys that are the professionals, the guys that are making tons of money, men and women that are doing it, there's unhappiness there. Everybody's got a problem. And, maybe with what's going on in the world right now, this is where the universe is saying you need to take a reality check here. You're moving a little bit too fast. You're kind of getting ahead of yourselves. Let's slow down just a moment and reflect and kind of figure it out. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was posting videos of them having a good time and dancing and, partying hard and great meals. Now you're not getting that as much. People are starting to realize that things kind of are difficult right now.
Yeah, and it looks really, for me at least, when I saw people doing that, felt really out of touch from the year that a lot of us experienced. So I think you're right. I think it made people take a step back and be a little more conscious about what they put online.
Speaking of everyone getting through it, y'all's conversation has generated some questions.
Ooh, loving it.
First one is kind of a callback to, I think, something Elizabeth, you mentioned about joining or starting to play games. We've got a post here that says, I joined an online game.
Oh, uh-oh. You just lost your zen.
This question. I joined an online game to interact with other people, but I still feel isolated when I'm playing. How do I get over that feeling?
Oh, that's a great
So
question.
I guess, this is something that even I feel like I could relate to when you do try and take that step and it's still not seeming to work. Is that something that you can relate to as well?
Yeah. I guess how do you deal with that? You try once and it doesn't work and you give up, right?
Yeah, and I think that especially if like you're going through a lower point in your mental health. It's like if something doesn't work and you put so much energy into that first step and it didn't pay off in the way you were expecting, it can be really, really discouraging. But for me, I like directly, now one of my closest friends is in London who plays Catan, but I directly messaged her because I was like, okay, I'm just going to take, to me, that was an even bigger step, but it was like, I'm going to reach out to one person because I am better at connecting with people individually versus like a large group. That's intimidating. I'm not really, that's not my scene. But reaching out to one person did it for me. I don't know about your experience.
Well, it seems also as soon as you are able to articulate it and let it out, that it takes away some of the weight of it. Because we're holding this in and afraid to share it with anybody, thinking that we need to be this way. And as soon as you let it out, doesn't it feel so much better?
Yes, and then people start to relate to you, and then it creates that community based on, oh wait, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the friend goes, you know what? I was thinking the same thing, or I went through this, or I have a friend who's doing that. All of a sudden you realize you are not alone in this.
Yeah, and it's surprising to see how many people, it's like, oh wow, I am definitely not the only person who felt isolated this year or felt that social support was really kind of falling off.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like that isolation is something that you can bond over.
There you go.
The isolation. Absolutely. I feel like for me too, a lot of times when that feeling of being alone in the crowded room maybe comes from a place of insecurity over, who I am to the room. What am I supposed to be doing? What's the best way for me to fit in? And you need to take a step back and just realize, be yourself. Don't worry so much about it. Do some, even like looking up exercises to kind of like tap into that inner authenticity, I think is something helpful.
And also, to use that crowded room analogy, most of the people in that crowded room are probably thinking the same thing as you. They're all wondering what everyone else is thinking about them. And bottom line is, they're probably not thinking about you really at all. So you can be free to be yourself. And actually, when somebody is themselves, that's incredibly engaging. That's interesting. When you're putting on a pretense or trying to be someone else, it's not as interesting or compelling as being true to who you are.
Absolutely. We got another question coming in. This one kind of more specifically about depression. I know we've covered a lot of things already, but this is, one of my gamer friends seems pretty depressed. We don't talk much outside of playing, but I still want to help. What can I do? So sorry, go ahead.
I love that this person's thinking about their friend and thinking about how they can reach out to them and what they can say. And I can speak from just a peer perspective, my own lived experience. I remember one of my closest friends, when I was at my lowest point in depression, she could see that something was up, and she just point blank asked me what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Like, how can I support you? Like, just not knowing what to say is also okay. Being like, if you don't have that same lived experience, you can be like, I don't know exactly what you're feeling right now, but I care so much about you and I want to be there for you. And I think just that made me feel a lot less alone. And then what she did is she helped me kind of get the courage to reach out to a resource. She was like, hey, there's some sliding scale counseling centers in the area. Like, do you think if we called together, you'd be open to that? Like, she now is getting her degree to become a therapist. This was years ago, but I'm not surprised that she's doing it. But it doesn't take much. It just takes showing up and asking how you can help.
What was the seed for you? What changed it for you? Were you, you're obviously helping a lot of people. What motivated you? Was there a moment in your life where it just kind of clicked and you thought, you know what? I'm good at this. I need to do this. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I think that at a certain point in my mental health journey, I really wanted to focus on giving back, because I felt that I was so supported by peer communities, by friends, and I now feel that I'm at a point in my mental health journey where I feel that I'm stable enough to be that rock for someone and to be there for that person. I don't think I could have been that person 3-4 years ago, because I was just trying to take care of myself and get through the day to day. But now that I feel like I've got some ground beneath me, I really want to become that community, because it's hard to find, and to find someone who will actually listen, because you're not looking for like a counselor from your friend. You're looking for someone who won't judge you and will just get you through that tough time.
And paying it forward as well.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
there were people that were helping you, and you know that's what I alluded to earlier in my my little monologue, that I was so blessed. So many people were so kind to me, and understanding and appreciative. It was incumbent upon me to give back as well, and by giving back, you learn. And there's great satisfaction in being able to help someone, give somebody a helping hand, because we've all been through those struggles. We all have our inner demons. Nobody is immune to that. And to think that people are living this life where nothing bothers them, maybe they are, but to me, they're kind of brain dead. You know, if you're a living, breathing human being on this planet, there's going to be ups and downs. No human condition is permanent. You know, we're not going to always be happy. We're not always going to be sad, but it's a learning process.
Exactly. And being able to have that perspective is so important. And I remember being in the moment and being depressed. It felt like I was going to feel that way forever. And now that I got through that, I see that, yeah, that was a really hard few months. And, you know, depression comes and goes. It could sink back, but I know that there's help now. But at the time, I didn't realize that I could get out.
Let me ask you this, because you said that you've been really depressed. It lasted a few months, came in and out. Knowing that what you know now, is it when you go into that period where you are, let's say, depressed or sad, do you have a different perspective about it now, knowing that, hey, this is not going to last forever. This is just something I have to work through. Maybe I need to change gears a little bit just to kind of move to the next phase. How do you, I guess, how does it work for you?
Yeah, I think that for me, and actually NAMI has labeled it kind of a warning sign, like paying attention to when my behavior changes or my thought changes, because I know that if I stop reaching out to friends, lose interest in the activities I used to have, and when I really just want to isolate myself, I'm like, okay, that's when I'm going to take the exact opposite action of that. That's when I need to reach out to my friends the most. That's when I need to really tune in and start taking care of my mental health. Usually when I get to that point, that means I've neglected some part of my mental health routine. Like for me, sleep's really important. Seeing my therapist regularly is really important. My peer support groups that I attend every week, essential. And if I lose some part of my personal, that's what works for me. If I lose some part of that, I can feel my mental health kind of get a little iffy.
Well, it's wonderful that there are people out there that are as compassionate and empathetic and caring as you are. And I know that NAMI embodies that. Everyone we've met at NAMI, and we are in partnership with NAMI, with Vent, is of a like mind. They are there to help people. And I want to kind of underline again that this is a service that is free, correct?
Totally free. And unlike a lot of things in the mental health system, it's that barrier to care is taken out. And the peer groups are led by people with lived experience. They're peers who have been trained. So it doesn't feel clinical. It feels like, okay, I can actually open up to these people and they will understand on a level that maybe my professional wouldn't. It's not that one or the other. I think that working with both can really be beneficial, and having it be free is huge.
Yeah, and it's also a process. It's not like you go there and somebody talks to you for an hour and your life changes. I mean, it's something that is a process. It's life, right?
Exactly. And consistency is key. And I think holding space like this evening where conversations can happen openly about mental health and destigmatizing it, I think it makes it more likely that people will then come reach out to NAMI's resources, come reach out to Vent's resources, because we've started the conversation. And so there's at least one person out there on a NAMI support group who gets what's happening or
Well,
that chat.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show this evening and sharing your insight and your thoughts and you with us. So, Sophie, I want to kind of end with you. Thank you again for tuning in. Are there more questions or anything else or any thoughts that you have?
We've got one more question that I think
Okay.
would be cool to get to. It's an interesting one. So it says, can you address the negative impact of depression through faith or a belief in a higher power? I think that's really cool. I think for me, sometimes it feels like being someone who maybe grew up religious and isn't so much religious anymore, it doesn't feel like they go hand in hand, but I know that's not true for other people. I think it's a really interesting question.
That's a really fascinating question. And Sophie, I'm pretty similar. I grew up religious, not so religious now, but I know that in my peer groups, some people, their faith community is really important and a part of their support system. And some people come from a faith community where they feel like if they talk about their mental health, it's not seen as legitimate. So I feel like it's so individual based on each person's experience. But I find that it's really like finding the community that works for you is so important. And whether that is a faith community or maybe if that isn't the best fit, knowing that there's a lot of options.
For me, I guess it's probably the second strongest urge that we have as human beings, beyond just needing to put food in our bellies. The number two would be the need for meaning and purpose in our lives. And however you can find that, I think that's a struggle. If you think that there's no purpose to anything, then it's difficult to find a purpose in your own life. So I guess the question is you need to ask yourself is, why are you here? What purpose do you have? What's the reason why you are here alive at this moment in time on this planet, in this state, wherever you might be? And if you can think about that and reflect and think, well, you know what? There is a reason. It's just up to me to discover what that purpose or what that reason is. Just by looking for that, by searching for that, I think will help you to kind of take that first step like we've been talking about to getting out of that area of depression or that trauma that you're going through or that issue that you're struggling with.
Absolutely. I think Stefan, who we had on our journeys too, would be a big proponent, and he's a science guy. But one of the things he kept saying was figure out what is right for you. Try therapy, try exercise, try medication, try religion. And I think that's a neat thing about it. And I love what you said, Elizabeth, about community. It definitely is about just finding the space that feels safe for you. Maybe it's your church group, maybe it's your gamer group, maybe it's the team here at Event, but I think that's awesome. I'm glad we got to get to that question. I thought it was really
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you. And again, I want to thank Elizabeth for coming on the show. Sophie, again, you're, as always, knock it out of the park. We're going to pop up a graphic that's going to let everybody know how they can connect with NAMI, resources that are available. I know in next week's show, we're going to be talking about stress and anxiety. Sophie, you've got an Overhertz show that's coming up next. Is it Tuesday night? Wednesday night. Wednesday night. And be sure to check out the show that aired yesterday. It's on our YouTube channel, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. And we're gonna try something different tonight. This is the first time. We talked about this just before we went on the air. And those Marvel movies where you watch the film and up pop the credits, but nobody leaves. And they don't leave because they know there's going to be a little treat after the credits. So they stick around. Well, we've got a little treat for you. It's going to be not just a peek behind the curtain. We're actually going to rip the curtain down and show you really what's happening with Vent behind the scenes. So after we put up that little graphic at the end, stick around and we're going to invite you into a very, very interesting conversation. My name is Robert Clotworthy. I want to thank you all for joining us on this, our very first Vent Support Chat conversation. And as Jim Raynor would say, some things are just worth fighting for.